Hello, welcome to Module 5. You made it through the exam last week. You're over halfway there. And Module 5, you'll see, returns to the same format as the first three modules. And we will go there now. Go to the overview video, which is this. And we have the part 1, which is economic and budgetary policy associated with Chapter 7. We have the part 2, healthcare policy associated with Chapter 8, several videos there. The videos here are very important to help with context for the material. You have discussion 5, and now we're back to a TED Talk discussion. I'll go over some pointers there on how to improve your grade. And then you have group project 1. This is your first group project, and you've all given me your wishes, whether you want to go solo or be in a group. And so you will see that I've created the groups for you. Probably not, if you're getting this on Sunday, not Sunday, but you will have it by Monday created in the system. So forgive me for that. And you will see, we'll go over the problem statement worksheet in this video. And then you have the reading quiz for Chapter 7 and 8, similar to the other earlier modules. So part 1, economic and budgetary policy. And we go through here, GDP and all of these things that you'll be learning about. 5 goals of economic policy. These are important. So economic growth, low levels of unemployment, low levels of inflation, positive balance of trade, and managing deficits and debt, and knowing the difference between a deficit and a debt. And then we have a couple very large programs that were instituted in the last 20 years to address recession and potentially avoiding something worse. There's the deficit. That should scare us all. It has gone down a little bit, but still the debt is growing. Here's the debt. Inflation, as we know, has gone up and up, unfortunately, and just is starting to come down a little bit now. And that's what happens when you have a couple things, one being these massive programs, both under President Trump and under President Biden, stimulating the economy. So there's more money in the economy, therefore prices go up. And also we have supply chain issues initially related to COVID, which helped also increase prices. This is a good video. It's a little bit goofy, but it covers the basics on monetary and fiscal policy. And then you have the tools of economic policy. This is a bit different than the instruments of public policy. They're more specific. And we get into that. We break down mandatory spending versus discretionary. So most of the budget is mandatory, meaning it's codified in the law or through agreements like interest. That's unfortunate. So it has to be paid. Discretionary is the only part of the budget that actually can be discussed, and this is what causes a lot of the disagreements in Congress. Tools of monetary policy. This is important. This is the Fed, and you'll read about this. And this is what the Fed can do. We're learning and seeing a lot about this the last 5-10 years. And you see country levels of tax revenues across the OECD. OECD are just essentially developed, more affluent nations, industrial based, or they have an industrial base. Not all, but really it's just more affluent. And you can see that France, the highest percentage of GDP are tax revenues. The average is around here, and then we're one of the lower taxed countries, but we still make a stink about it because we don't like paying taxes, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view. Then we get into healthcare policy. It's a lot of information. Again, this is a public policy course. It's more of a it's an undergraduate, an intro for a lot of you to public policy. So there's a lot of information here. Just know the basics and the differences between some of these things. Of course, we all know this. US has the most expensive healthcare system in the world by a significant margin. And this video really goes into why our healthcare here is so expensive. You have the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Some of you may already know this, but this will be reviewed, but many of you may not. This is what Medicare does and doesn't cover. And then we get into Medicaid and some of the other programs, CHIP, etc., the VA. And here's TED Talk, How Economic Inequality Harms Societies, Richard Wilkinson, which is very interesting. Here's the key to doing well on the discussion. Some of you may be saying, why did I get 2.75 out of 3? First of all, 0.25 is not much of a reduction. But what I look for is a few things. One is the overall quality. And then two is, did the student answer all of the elements of the question? So this has several elements. This says, first, very briefly describe the difference between wealth inequality and income inequality. So wealth versus income. So I want to see at least a sentence, or two on that. Then describe 3 health or social issues problems found to be associated with wealth inequality using examples from the TED Talk. So he gives you many, many examples here. And, either income or wealth inequality examples. And just I want to see 3 different examples from that. And then finally, there's one last thing. Oftentimes students miss the little last part. Just briefly address, sentence or two, why these correlations may exist. It doesn't have to be, the earth-shattering scientific revelation, but just so I know that you're thinking about it. And then those will get the 3 points, provided the overall quality is good. If it's missing elements, usually I'll take off a little bit. And here's one. Most of you have respond to another fellow student, but if you don't, I'm pretty lenient with the grades here. You will lose a point, and that can really hurt your overall grade. So make sure you respond to another post. So now we're getting into the 3 group projects or group worksheets. And either you're in a group or you're going solo by yourself. You have to hand this in by Saturday night. And for each one of these, I give an example, and I'm begging you, please look at the example and go over the example and see how I do it, so you know how you should prepare it in format and substance. So first we have the problem statement worksheet, and you put your group member full names, please. Sometimes people just put first names, just in case. Probably won't be an issue, but just in case. The societal problem. What I want you to do for this program, for this project, is be very specific, because when you get to the later worksheets, you're going to see why. If it's a very vague topic like homelessness, then it's difficult for you to create the subsequent worksheets, and you're going to make it a far too big a job. Think from the perspective of a local government. So if you're a county or a city, you can think state in some circumstances, depending on your societal issue, but just, I want you to think very specific and targeted. So, I'll show you the example how I did that. The societal problem, root causes, and proximate causes. Go back and review the differences between these two. The stakeholders, I put 3 here, but really you should have about 6 or 7 minimum. 3 is going to get you a C. So think, I only did 3 minimum, I get 3 is a C. However, if you really think about it, there's going to be you could have infinite number of stakeholders, and I'll show you the example in a second. And then the last part of this worksheet is what market failure is associated with the problem, and you can list them and then explain why, and I'll show you the example now. So we'll close this. And let's go to the example. So I'd say just go to the example. And for the societal problem, and I put include location, chronic homelessness in Imperial County, California, or chronic homelessness in San Diego County or Orange County, wherever you are. This way, it's not just homelessness, it's chronic, meaning the type of homelessness where people are more times than not to be found homeless. It's not an acute issue where perhaps someone is escaping a brutal spouse, or there was some sort of event, natural disaster, et cetera, et cetera. This is, those who are chronically homeless, generally more often than not have mental health issues. So root causes, what are the root causes? Chronic health issues, and that can be mental, physical, or both. Substance abuse issues, it's a mental health issue as well, but that's just more specific. That could be an issue. Chronic domestic violence issues, so it's not acute. So there's some serious problems that keep repeating. Criminal past, chronic poverty, or a combination of these. Proximate causes: loss of work or place to stay, lack of marketable skills. These are things that can be changed possibly. Loss of a home, lack of resources, lack of affordable housing, acute health issue. Maybe had a mental health issue flare at a certain moment or stop taking medication, etc. Acute domestic violence issue, something just happened once, but they've escaped the situation. And this shows me that you understand the difference between what proximate causes are, because someone could say, hey, I'm homeless because I lost my job and I was kicked out of my apartment. And you could say, wow, they just need a job and apartment. But then you find out that this individual has never kept a job because of mental health issues or substance abuse issues. And so it's a larger problem. The root cause is up here. So what may happen if nothing changes? This is an important statement, just a couple sentences. So the number of chronically homeless would increase, as would the negative externalities of vagrancy, arrest, health emergencies. And again, we're thinking as a public administrator who's working for a city or county, and from that perspective, chronically homeless will not receive adequate services and further suffer from consequences of situation, including sickness, addiction, arrest, alienation from family, and death. And of course, there's the large negative externality there of first responders, as many of you are, having to deal with these situations. And it would be better if we had those who social workers or such that could help these people in more long-term capacity. And first responders don't want to always be burdened with this. It's very expensive. It's not an efficient way to handle the situation. So question 2, who are the primary problem stakeholders? What's their primary motivation? So what's their perspective for each? What do they think should be the outcome? And it's not about being right, wrong, or good or bad. We want to just make an objective view. So chronic homeless person, pursuit of resources, shelter, freedom, liberty, need for help could be the primary motivation. Some may not want help. Stakeholder, families of chronic homeless persons in Imperial County. So they have families and they want what's best for that individual. Stakeholder 3, Imperial County Health and Human Services Department. They want to help as many residents to be healthy and sustainable and back in society, etc. But there's constraints with budget and resources. They have administrative capacity issues. And so the motivation, we need to keep this efficient and effective. Municipal police fire departments, they want less emergency calls requiring assistance involving chronic homeless population, and they can focus on crime and other things. Imperial County Sheriff Department and jail, less need for emergency calls again, and incarceration of chronic homeless population. They don't have often the resources for mental health illness as some other places do. And then you have Imperial County residents. The residents want a healthy, prosperous, sustainable community. Imperial County business and real estate. So maybe this is, not the most politically correct, but they want less loitering and vagrancy issues related to chronic homeless population. They don't want people hanging around their business that scare away customers, perhaps. And again, it's not right, wrong. It's just, it is what it is. Stakeholder aid, Imperial County hospitals and clinics. They want less emergency health situations related to chronic homeless population. They want to make sure these people are taking care of themselves and not having to be taken to the emergency room. And local, state, national homeless advocacy programs. This could be churches and a whole bunch of different groups. Each location is different. I group them all as one stakeholder. You could list probably 5 or 6 for each one, but you don't have to. You can put them all in one. And chronically homeless receive shelter as well as adequate mental, physical health. And they would like to have some support from the city, most likely. What market failures are associated with the problem? This should be 2 or more for each one of yours. Don't just put one and say we're done, because there's often many different things. So inequitable market failures. So what does that mean? So for-profit healthcare not easily accessible to chronically homeless, therefore they can't get the mental health treatment they need. Market-based housing system does not provide enough affordable housing. Substance abuse treatment programs may require resources that aren't available to chronically homeless, but they require a lot of extra money. High unemployment rates in an area like Imperial County, and county does not have the administrative capacity to address issue. In Imperial County, that's definitely true. There is no detox center. There's no homeless center at all that's under the purview of the county or any city. Information failures. So chronically homeless are not aware of resources available or do not have access to those resources. Chronically homeless are not aware of own mental or physical health issues often. They lack the information about themselves or what they need to do. Family members and loved ones of these people are not aware of what to do, what services are available, and there's misinformation regarding what to do. And then negative externalities. First responders have to address chronic homeless issues they're not best equipped to handle in the long term. And vagrancy negatively affects businesses. Use of public spaces, you could put even more here. You could put public goods if you want. But I put 3. I'd put 3 or 4, at least 2 for each of yours should make sense. And then here you see the brief explanation. If you're choosing homelessness, don't just copy what I have. I want you to have something a bit unique, but at least have the minimum of what I've put here. So I'm going to be there's a little more scrutiny with those picking homelessness. So example, if you're doing LA County, maybe I want you to put some of these organizations that help the homeless as well, rather than just blocking them into one group. So I know you're not just taking what I have and copying it. So that is the problem statement worksheet. If you have issues, just email me. I have the breakdown of the scoring in the rubric, and then we have the quiz, the same old, and then you are done this week. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. And I will see you next week. Take care.